to the City of Breezy Point Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and I will call the meeting to order. Approval of the August 13th minutes.
Move they be approved as submitted.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion of that motion?
No.
If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion passed. City Council Liaison Report, Councilman Maroney.
City Council met at the regular, well, it was the regular September meeting, but it was on Tuesday the 3rd. Some items of discussion was Nickel Road was a road that did not have any speed limit signs on it, so we've moved forward with requesting the speed limit being 30 miles per hour, as it's a city road, to be posted out there. We ordered a report for the Osawatomie repaving project, and we also had our preliminary levy discussion as well. Those are some items I thought you'd have of interest, but if you have any questions on anything else, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Any questions? No. If not, we'll move to open forum number 1. Would anyone in the audience like to get up and speak during open forum number 1? If you would, please approach the microphone and give us your name and address, please. Anyone? Distinguished member of the City Council.
I respect, but I'm not used to that. Good evening, folks. Nice to see you here, and thanks for the job that you all do. I've been involved in 4 comprehensive plans, and I see on the agenda tonight there's a very, very, very important item. It would be the last one, unfortunately. I cannot be around at the end for any further comments, so I want to get mine registered now. In all 4 of those comprehensive plans, 5 years, kind of like the Russian 5-year plan that didn't work, but ours does, and it works very well. Affordable housing and apartments has reared its head. And this year, especially, it was at the very, very top to everybody that we sent out information to. So I highly recommend the project to go forward. You guys are in control of what happens at as far as restrictions in conditional use permit. And I really hope that the commission will favor the project. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Councilman Martin. Anyone else? If not, I will close open forum number 1. You'll have an opportunity later in the agenda during open forum number 2, and move to a public hearing on an interim use permit application, convert an existing commercial building to a mixed-use structure, salon/vacation rental. I will open the public hearing on that application and ask the applicant to come forward and with their presentation. Yes, sir.
I'm clearly not Natasha, but I am her husband, and she could not make it. Her son had a football game, and I couldn't get off in time to bring him, so I'm here.
Your name and
Fred
where you?
Puffy.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Never done one of these. But the biggest thing we wanted to say was that all the renting will be done by us, not a third party. She's been a business owner for about 15 years, right across from JJ's and Commander. Every rental will sign and have a copy of all the noise ordinance and Breezy policies. Weekly and weekend option only. It's not a per night. All the plumbing is code signed off by an inspector. We bought brand new appliances for everything, fully furnished, large off-street parking lot, so I don't have any road space. City sewer. It's going to be right next to the motel. Actually, there's going to be 2 hotels by it. There'll be no disturbance to surrounding buildings. That's all.
Okay, good. Thank you. Staff review the application, Jerry.
The application is for an interim use permit to allow vacation rentals at 8101 County Road 11. That there's an existing structure there that is proposed to be rehabbed, and today there's a salon that's operating out of that structure. Definition of a vacation rental is a residential property that is rented in excess of 4 times per year. Vacation rentals are allowed as interim use permits in a commercially zoned area. This piece of property is commercially zoned. It is also serviced by municipal sanitary sewer. The intended use meets the definition of a vacation rental. Vacation rental is a permitted interim use in the C zone. The use with conditions conforms to the comprehensive plan. The use is compatible with existing neighborhood, and the use would not be injurious to public health, safety, welfare, decency, order, comfort, convenience, appearance, prosperity. The use is consistent with conditional use, and it is consistent with the definition of interim use. Staff would recommend approval with some conditions. One condition being no outside storage. Parking spaces shall be all weather. All activities be within the dwelling. No accumulation of garbage. Must maintain a Minnesota lodging license from Minnesota Department of Health. The interim use permit is limited to vacation rental for the property, and the interim use would expire on 12/31/2021. Our vacation rental ordinance actually specifies that the first term is for 2 years, and then it's just reviewed after that. We would recommend that there be 2 off-street parking spaces dedicated for vacation rental, plus 1.5 per bedroom. I believe this is a 2-bedroom expansion, so we would recommend that there be 5 parking places dedicated for the vacation rental. With that, I'll conclude and answer any questions that anybody has.
Any questions of Jerry? Roger?
Just had one that said bump out existing bathroom to create tile shower, so that there'll be some addition to the existing unit, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yep, to make it a full bath.
So we don't need a variance for that.
What's the question?
For the bath, for the shower, we don't need a variance for that. That's not part of the,
That's not part of
Right.
the discussion. They have applied for a building permit to do those
okay, all right,
so, expansions.
okay,
Which has all been signed off and
okay.
Peggy?
That was my only question, also.
Okay. Tracy?
It may be in there, but do you intend to continue to use it as a salon as well?
no,
Okay.
no, once all this goes through and we get a permit for this, as of right now, there's just a sink that she's been using, and we've talked to the person who does the inspection, and we're taking that out as soon as we get approved, capping it off, covering it, and it will no longer be used as a salon.
Okay, thank you.
Michael?
Jerry, one of the conditions is all parking spaces must be all weather. Can you define what all weather?
Dust coated,
What did you say?
hard surface.
Okay. Asphalt,
Which-
okay.
Any other questions of Jerry? Okay. I will ask anyone who has input to this application to come to the microphone now. Introduce yourself. None? Okay. Tracy?
I have, one thought came to my mind, and in the long-range planning, we have talked about trying to encourage commercial facilities along that strip, and in a way, this is taking away that one commercial facility. I understand your situation, but it's a concern I have, but it's not a real strong concern. It's too bad that the business can't survive as a business along that road.
Jerry?
I might follow up on that a little bit. Even though the use is being changed, doesn't mean it can't go revert back to a commercial should the market dictate that there's a use for that.
Okay.
Actually, the zoning is not being proposed to be changing. It's only the use, and it's only specific because of the use that's being proposed.
Oh, I was just gonna say,
Joe, you can have the applicant come up and speak to the microphone.
Yes, please.
We, our long goal is to have that as a business at some point. We do own another lot right next to it, and both of those are gonna be, they're gonna stay commercial lots for as long as we own it until, you know, I know everything's kind of getting bigger and you're having things adding, and we don't wanna change that just in case that comes down the road. So.
Thank you. Any input? If not, I will close the public hearing on this application and move to our next agenda item, which is to take official action on this application. We have a recommendation from staff, and I would entertain a motion.
I would move that we provide a conditional use permit, whatever, assuming the items that are in Jerry's list are part of it.
I would second it, but it's an interim use.
Yeah,
Con-
okay.
condition, yeah. And it would include the recommendations about the parking, I agree.
Okay.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion of that motion. Roger?
No.
Peggy?
No.
No. Tracy? Michael? If no discussion, I would ask for a vote then. All in favor of this motion, say aye. Opposed, the same? Motion passed. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is a conditional use permit, construction of a 26 by 24 accessory structure, excess of 1,280 square feet, cumulative total accessory structure in R3 zone. I will open the public hearing on this application and ask the applicant to make a presentation.
Hi, my name is Teresa Hyman, my husband Randy, and we would like to build a two-stall garage up by our house that we built 2 years ago. About 7 years ago, we had put a storage shed down below. We didn't know that was going to be part of an issue. We own 4 lots together. We have plenty of room for it. We also own 2 lots to the left of it that are wooded, and 1 lot behind the shop and storage that's wooded, and they would stay wooded. So we would like to be able to put our vehicles in a garage and clean up around our house. Getting it look nicer.
Anything you would like to add?
Well, we built the shop in 2011, and at that time, we approached the city that we were going to be putting in a new house and another garage at a later time. And we were just told it would be fine as long as we don't cover more than 25% of our property.
We didn't know that some of the
We
things
weren't
had
aware of any
changed.
bylaws or,
We don't want to do an attached garage.
Because of the snow removal of the roofs. It would create a dead pocket that the only way I'm gonna get snow out is with a shovel.
Very good.
I don't blame you.
So that's the main reason I'm detached, so I can blow my snow straight out the backyard. And I guess that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Staff review of this application, Jerry?
Again, the applicants are Randy and Teresa Heinen. The property is located at 30549 Terminal Road, Breezy Point. The zoning of the property is R3. The city code 153.033 in the R3 zone allows accessory structures cumulative up to 1,600 square feet with a conditional use permit. Today, there is a 884 square foot accessory structure. They are proposing to build a 26 by 24 accessory structure or an additional 624 square feet, bringing the cumulative total to 1,508. The property with the proposed addition would not exceed the 25% impervious coverage requirements, and it would meet all setback requirements. It meets the definition of a conditional use. We would recommend that they approve the conditional use permit with the following conditions. The accessory structure shall not exceed 624 square feet. Accessory structure to be used for personal use only. No commercial use of structure or property or home occupation is allowed without amending the conditional use permit. Accessory structure shall not exceed 15 feet to midpoint of the roof. Color to match siding and principal structure. Color of the roof to match principal structure. And the accessory structure shall not be utilized as living quarters or guest lodging. Conditional use would expire if not utilized by October 1, 2020. And there may be an extension if requested up to 1 year. Location of structure shall conform to the site plan as submitted.
Thank you. Questions of the applicant or Jerry? Roger?
No.
Peggy?
No.
No,
Tracy? Michael?
No questions.
Okay. Would anyone like to provide input to this application? If not, I will close the public hearing on this application and move to the next agenda item, which is to take official action on this application. We have a memo from staff and recommendations. I would entertain a motion.
I would move that we can agree to this conditional use application with the stipulations, the staff recommendations, 8 of them. That would be it.
Okay. Do we have a second?
second.
We have a motion and a second discussion of that motion. Roger?
No?
Peggy?
No, I think it's a good idea, good way to clean up,
Okay.
on the outside.
Tracy?
No questions.
Michael?
None.
All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Motion passed. Thank you. Next on our agenda is a public hearing on a variance application. In addition to Breezy Point Estates to construct dwelling unit on legal non-conforming lot. dwelling less than 975 square feet, your rear yard setback 23 feet, zone R2. Would the applicant like to come to the microphone and present the application?
I'm Scott Rupa. I have a purchase agreement on that lot, and I'm asking for the footprint to be within 23 feet of the rear line versus 30 feet that's required. I'm doing that to get my square footage on the house. Another variance is the size of the lot. I believe there's 15,000 square feet that Breezy Point requires. This lot is under 5,000 square feet. I meet the side setbacks, the front setback. And my other one was the home square footage. Breezy Point has 1,296 square feet required with a home that does not have an attached garage. With an attached garage, they have 975 square feet. Mine is 958 square feet, but also it is a tuck under that will have a one-car garage and a finished family room on that level. So I'll have over 1,500 square feet total finished. I believe that's it.
Just ask quickly if there are any questions of you. Roger? Peggy?
Not right now.
Tracy? Okay.
Everybody asks, why do you want to be on the golf course next to the 18th hole?
The party hole.
No questions?
Not at this point, thank you. Staff review of this application. Gary?
This is a little bit tougher than most of the variance requests that we've seen. Again, the applicant is Scott Grupa. The legal description is Lot 30, or the 30th addition to the Breezy Point Estates. The proposed dwelling would be located on Channel Heights. The zoning of the property is R2. The applicant is requesting a variance to construct a dwelling unit on a non-conforming lot because it's less than the required size as per the R2 zoning. From the size of the variance from the required size of the minimum size of a house in an R2 zone, and a rear yard setback 23 feet. The property is part of a 1964 plat which preceded any subdivision and zoning ordinances that we've had. So it's a little bit different. The current zoning is R2. Again, lot areas, minimum square footage of 15,000 square feet, setback 30 feet from the road right away, setback from the rear 30 feet, impervious coverage 25%, building height 25 feet. Again, the property has access to municipal sanitary sewer. A private well would be necessary. Property is proposed to be developed to meet the 25% impervious coverage requirement by the use, and pervious pavers would be utilized for the driveway. Variances shall be decided within a reasonable time with considerations for the following. The strict interpretation of the ordinance would be impractical because of circumstances relating to lot size, topography, or other characteristics of the property not created by the landowner. The deviation from the ordinance with any attached conditions will be in keeping with the spirit and the intent of the ordinance. The land use created by the variance is permitted in the zoning district wherein the property is located. The variance will not alter the essential character of the locality, and the variance is not for economic reasons alone, but reasonable use of the property does not exist under the current ordinance. The applicant contends that the practical difficulty is the irregular shape and size of the lot. The topography of the lot there's like a 14-foot difference in elevation from the golf course side to the Channel Heights side. All attempts are being made to design the structure to fit the lot. The property is located in an area zoned for single-family dwellings. The use is consistent with the character of the surrounding neighborhood. The applicant has proposed to use the property in a reasonable manner consistent with the neighborhood, and the use of pervious pavers would assure compliance with 25% coverage requirement. The following findings may be used to support denial of the request. The commission finds no practical difficulty, and the lot should be considered unbuildable. The following findings of fact may be used to support approval of the variance request. The practical difficulty is caused by the irregular shape and size of the lot. The property is serviced by municipal sanitary sewer. The use is consistent with the neighborhood, and the proposed dwelling fits the lot and is designed for the lot. If you choose to authorize the variances, we would recommend that building permits be obtained, placement of the structure of the lot to conform with the survey as presented, no rental of the property more than 4 times per year, maximum impervious coverage 25%, and all surface water to be directed and collected in rain gardens or similar structures.
Questions of Jerry? Roger?
This was platted in 64, it's 4,800 square feet, 33. Now the code says 15,000. That's a third.
Typically, we've allowed the use of the smaller lots when they're serviced by sewer, if the homes can meet setbacks. That's what we've typically done in the past.
That much smaller? A third?
Sure. As long as they can meet setbacks. And the reason for the larger lot size is for on-site systems. This piece
Well,
of
even
property.
in a R3 with a 10, that's 10,000 square feet, Jerry,
I understand.
sewer.
Peggy?
You had made the statement that if it meets all requirements for setback, and yet this one is requesting to have a rear setback of 30 rather than, or 23 rather than 30.
I think if you look at the survey, if you could pull that up again, Pat. I think he could probably meet the setbacks if in fact he were to, if the back lot line were a straight line, rather than having the notch that's pulled out of there. That's where the 23 feet is measured from.
Breezy?
One concern I have is, as I looked at it, it appears to me that it would be built on a bluff. There's quite a drop off, and at the foot of the bluff is, I don't know whether they consider the channel as being part of the lake or not, but
I think if you look in your ordinance at the definition of a bluff, part of it, and all of the features located in the shoreline. The slope rises at least 20 feet above the ordinary high water mark. This is a raise of approximately 16 feet.
It rises 16 feet from the front of the lot, but it's all still part of the bluff going down to the water.
I don't believe there's enough elevation in this lot to be considered a bluff.
Okay? Thank you.
it. Michael?
Jerry, you made a statement that the commission has approved variances as long as they can meet the setbacks.
We just, the practice has been to just issue permits as long as they meet setbacks.
Have they also met the building size requirements?
Typically, yes.
Okay. So they're a little bit larger lots.
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions of Jerry? Would anyone like to provide input to this application? Yes. Please introduce yourself.
I'm going to be prepared to move to an argument ourselves.
Thank you.
My name is Melanie Horvath. I live at 3003 Channel Heights. We are here as representatives of the Channel Heights Homeowners Association, and we respectfully object to the approval of variance that is before the Planning Commission for a number of reasons. First and foremost, our safety concerns. Channel Heights Road is a densely tree-lined road with barely enough room for two cars to pass safely, going opposite directions. Increased traffic, if this construction were to occur, would compound this issue. Given the size of the lot in question and proximity to the condominium driveway, the driveway is here, and the house would be sitting right here. Naturally, you're going to create a blind spot for people entering or exiting the condominiums. We have 19 homeowners and a few year-long residents who live there. I happen to be one of them. In addition to the vehicular concerns, there are concerns for any resident children that would play around there. The lots across and a little bit south of the condominiums contain what I would consider to be attractive nuisances. There are boats, there are vehicles, there are trailers, there are campers, trash and debris. They would be considered, I would think, by the city of Breezy Point to be hazardous to inquisitive minors. So if there are minors that are residing in this home, or if it's a vacation rental, if that's what they intend to do with it. Again, Channel Heights Road is very narrow, and any construction would make it very difficult for me to get in and out of the driveway of Channel Heights because the road is just not that passable or navigable. In the winter, it would be even worse, because I believe the snowplow comes in, does one pass, turns around, and goes back out. So the road becomes even more narrow. It's a beautiful lot. I don't know if anybody is familiar with that area, but there are a lot of mature oak trees there. And it also provides filtration and protection for any runoff going down. I've looked at the plans and the driveway. I see on the plan that there is a reservoir for potential runoff, but I foresee that the runoff from the golf course would follow the driveway down across the lot, across the road from the dwelling, and run right into the channel. And there are DNR guidelines for shoreland that would be contradictory to having that building there. And I've noted the city of Breezy Point ordinances this. The lot is very steep, as everybody has mentioned. The elevation is 16 feet, apparently. We think that the removal of the trees is going to affect the aesthetic nature and also the habitat. There are a number of families of deer that live in the area, and I see them up on the golf course in the winter and in the spring. I would think that any change in the aesthetics and the attractiveness of the area is going to be altered by putting a dwelling there, especially one that may or may not have 25% impervious coverage. According to the City of Breezy Point City Ordinance, a non-conforming single lot of record located within the shoreland, which this is, shall be considered for a building permit provided that the following can be met. All structure setbacks and other zoning requirements can be met. The lot is non-conforming and the structure setbacks and other zoning requirements cannot be met. Hence, you're being approached for the variances. In Section 6 of the statewide shoreline management standards of Minnesota DNR Shoreline Management Guide states that local government units having shorelands are required to adopt these or stricter standards into their zoning ordinances. These standards are for non-lake shore minimum lot width 75 feet, minimum lot area 10,000 square feet. Lot 30 is about 55 feet wide and the lot area is approximately 4,800 square feet. That's more than a small variance. We also question the purpose of the intended construction, whether it will be for the applicant's personal use as a resident, a VRBO, which can only be done 4 times a year, long-term rental property, or built for sale, all of which will have an impact on the character of the location and the economic and aesthetic value of where I live at the condominiums. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? David?
David Landecker, representing White Birch. We're opposed to the 30-foot setback variance from the golf course boundary. If Patrick could just show on the picture up here, you'll see the mow line for where the green is. If you go down to the green towards the house, there's a notation that says mowed line. See that? So there's a line, so the golf course right now is built and, you know, it encroaches on that lot by about 20 feet. And so if you were to go out there today to look at it, those of you that have, you will have noticed that where the trees begin is about on that line where the large oaks are. So from the practical standpoint of maintaining the golf course and utilizing the golf course the way that it is, it would be detrimental to us to have them at least build to the 30 feet setback from that rear property line. That being said, the variance, you know, we're not opposed to people building on lots, but this rear setback or the road setback would be more appropriate in our opinion if you were going to allow a building to be placed on this at all. That the variance be shifted from the rear property line to the road. Make no mistake, when this house site's developed, there will be no trees left on this lot. They will have to grade this entire site to make this work. And from that respect, even though they're showing pervious pavement or driveway and showing this lovely little rain garden down there. It's my opinion that this is such a sensitive lot and so small that if you do approve it, that you should get an engineered plan for that feature to capture the drainage and to make sure that that driveway is in fact built in accordance with engineering specifications and just not lay pavers down on a little bit of sand. It's going to be critical to make sure that the water coming off of that building and off of the property there, because it's all going to be coming down towards the Channel Boulevard Road, be captured. And again, just by having a picture like this, and I've done many of these myself, a cartoon in a sense, that says this is where we think things can go, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work. And again, you have to envision this whole site will be disturbed and lack of vegetation on it once it's complete. So I just wanted to point out those things. We're opposed to the 30-foot rear setback. If, again, you would favor a variance, would prefer that it be relocated to the right-of-way instead. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary?
Thank you. Gary Blacken, 29464 Shoreview Lane. I'm in complete agreement with the two previous statements. I urge you to listen to those, and after 3 terms on the Planning Commission, where I sitting in those chairs, hearing the testimony that I have to this moment, I would, in all probability, vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Jeff Johnson, representing Whitebirch. Also, just wanted to add a couple of things. Just to be clear, we're not opposed to the house there, just the variance request on the back lot line, or I'm not sure if it is a golf course, if that becomes the front at that point. I'm not quite sure how all that stuff works, but I'm a golfer, but I'm not a very good golfer. And where the location that they've selected is right where somebody with a slice, much like myself, would go to. And everybody likes to build on a golf course until they start hitting your house, breaking your windows and that kind of thing. So we would just caution the developer of the lot about that. And also from the standpoint of the, sorry, lost my train of thought. Just the project in general, we're fine with it, just concerned about the variance. So if we were building on our side of the fence, we would have to be 40 feet away from their zone. They're only required to be 30 from ours. And so just wanted to point that out, that it is very close, even at 30 feet. Golf balls will hit that. So thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Anyone else? If not, I will, let me ask, first, does anyone have any questions of any of the speakers? Any questions at this point before I close the public hearing?
No.
No.
I will close the public hearing and
Do
move.
I have a chance to speak again or not? Or
You sure can.
do I do that now?
Yes.
I can understand the concern of the golf course because they are encroaching on the property by, I don't know how many feet that is. And as far as the little bit that I'm asking for, that little diamond shape that comes into that lot, I mean, that's hardly affecting anything as far as the rear setback. As far as moving the house forward towards the road, I don't think that's a good idea. I think the front setback and sides are more important than the rear. And they are a golf course, and he talked about having to be 40 feet away. Well, they're mowing way into it, you know. I know we're not talking about building here, but they're occupying this property that was platted out to support a single-family home. And I am meeting most all of the requirements, including the 25% impervious. And when it comes to the driveway and how to construct it, that's been researched, and we do know how that's supposed to be done. No, you don't put pavers on top of sand. And I think I'm gonna be watched by the city when that driveway is being done. The design of this survey was done by a professional. They talked about the rain gardens, they put it in the appropriate spots. The height of the top of the hill versus the bottom of the hill. If you put the house in, it's roughly 14 feet. If you put the house in and you raise that house 2 feet off the pavement, that leaves 10 feet. I've got 9-foot ceilings at the lower level, plus an 18-inch floor truss that's going to be held with treated plywood onto that. I'm going to be near the height of that 18th hole with the house. Now, if I have to put a small retaining wall to make sure that all the water from the golf course doesn't come down that hill, like it does now, I mean, I'm willing to do that. As far as the condominiums and not wanting it there because their driveway, I don't know what to say. I don't know if their driveway wasn't designed properly when they put that in. I guess that's about it. But I'm meeting my, I think with the footprint of the house, or the way the regs read for square footage, is 975 square feet with a 2-car garage. I am so close to that 975 square feet. I guess if this is going to be denied, I would like to know the reason for that, because I'm going to have to go back to the seller of the property who's been paying regular taxes on the property as if it was going to be a buildable lot, and tell him we can't build on it. I think that's it.
Thank you. Gary?
Point, counterpoint, then I'm done. Again, Gary Balkin, 29464 Shoreville Lane. I've been involved in the city for a long time, watched roads repaired. I have a project that I can take you right out to right now and show you that the impervious coverage on that road is not working. That is a fact. And I'll take any of you that want to go out there tomorrow and show you that. This project is so nip and tuck. Again, I would rather err on the side of safety rather than creating and clear-cutting and creating a disaster for the people there. It's that simple.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
I'm not coming up here as a mayor, I'm coming up here as a private citizen.
Okay.
And getting to, I'm Tom Lillahide, 29828 Lakeshore Drive. I also had a similar situation when I was building my house. The neighbors did not like me building my house because of the trees. That is not their concern. That is the concern of the property owner. A variance is needed to satisfy a building requirement where the lot itself cannot meet the requirements. It's not due to the homeowner, it's just due to the shape of the lot. In this case, the lot is very clearly a small lot. The variance is required so that that homeowner can build on that lot. The water runoff, that is technically, by ordinance, not their concern because the adjacent properties are supposed to maintain the water on their property. It is not the homeowner's responsibility to prevent water coming from the golf course. down, that's the golf course responsibility to keep water on their property. Okay, so that is, the water running down is not an issue technically. The fact that the short distance to the back is encroaching, well, you can already see on the layout, the golf course is already encroaching on that property. And if you were to make this property, deny the variance, you'd make this property unbuildable, then the whole idea of the variance goes out the window. The variance is there to make this a buildable property. And he is meeting just, the only thing he's getting the variance is due to the shape of the lot. That's it in a nutshell. From the standpoint of, do we want to see building within the city? That's always a positive. We have buildings going on within the city. I sat in your chair as chairman, and I sat on the planning commission. This is one variance that I would consider as a variance that should be approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I will close the public hearing and move to the next agenda item, which is official action on this application. We have listened to considerable input. We have a staff review with recommendations. I would entertain a motion.
Before doing so, can I ask a clarifying question of staff?
Yes.
Jerry, there's the lot that we're in question tonight, there's a lot to the south of it, owned by a completely separate owner. Just for clarification point, if these two lots were one, or they own both, the variance today is requesting for, my understanding was technically three. One, the lot size didn't meet it. Two, a setback from the rear. And three is to build a home smaller than the suggested building footprint. Is that the correct statement?
Right.
So I could only assume that if the applicant did own both of these, it would never came up in front of us.
I don't know where that house would be in relationship to that next lot line, but
I could answer that question.
well, I think you can make that assumption.
We could make that assumption. The setbacks would most likely be eligible. The building could meet the standards. So a lot of the concerns that we did hear about the trees and the runoff wouldn't have been, they'd be concerned still, but I just want to make sure that those items are really not of main importance here. As the last speaker mentioned, it was those three variances that it is. And the last question, Jerry, if we deem a lot is not buildable, can we still do that? I thought my years on planning has surpassed, but I thought there was a rule or something like that. If
You can consider them unbuildable.
okay. Okay.
Any other questions before we
I don't think
take
our
action?
questions on the trees and the runoff, it's the size of the lot, the size of the home, the size of the garage, and the setback. I mean, it's, I said it before, the lot's 1/3, less than 1/3 the size. I know you need a variance, but isn't a variance within reason? That's all I'm saying.
Peggy, do you have any questions?
No.
Tracy?
No.
Michael, any other questions?
Got no phone?
Okay, I will entertain a motion on this application.
Would make a motion to deny it.
I would second it.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion.
Can I still discuss or not?
Not at this point. This is discussion between council members.
To me, it comes down to the lot size. So do we just rewrite all the zoning now? We don't need 15,000, we need 5,000 or 4,000 square foot lots.
Keep in mind, in 1964, that was legit. When this was zoned, that was a required lot size. This would be allowed back then.
But now we're in 2019.
Which, at that point, when the plats were created, you had to go, you couldn't foresee into the crystal ball to see what rules would change. So we do have a problem in the community with many lots that do not abide by the lot size.
Oh, definitely. And it comes down to consolidating some of those and.
Further discussion?
Oh, sure.
No, Tracy? No.
I guess I would make the same comments that Roger is making. I would see that as a practical difficulty. This is not really a buildable lot based on the zoning ordinance that we have now. Never mind what the plat was in 1964.
And according to the book here, the variation is the minimum will make possible the reasonable use of the land and building structure. Minimum. I mean, is that minimum? A third the size? I don't know.
Any further discussion before we vote?
Nope.
Jared, do they need to list the reasons of?
Lot size too small
And the current zoning restrictions.
and considered unbuildable because the lot size is too small.
Okay. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Just to deny the variance.
The application is denied. Next item on our agenda is a public hearing on a conditional use application. Construction of a 60-unit apartment building and an 18-stall garage. Wow, I didn't even have to ask. Thank you. If you would introduce yourselves, appreciate it.
John Levinsky with Levinsky Properties, 25089 Pine Lane, Muskego, Minnesota.
William Dorr,
10717 Pine Beach Peninsula.
Bob Erickson, Levinsky Properties, 4035 Field and Trail, Pine River, Minnesota.
Thank you. If you would like to go ahead and present your application.
Maybe cue ahead to, we have some of the graphics on there. You'll have to be a little more clear than that. I'm just starting with those and then maybe I can signal you. I could start with that and just go down. So we are proposing for the North Star property a 60-unit, 3-story apartment building. We are trying to use the materials consistent with the clinic, so you'll see the teal colors board and batten. And we're trying to keep that as a desire of the landowner and also us, we're kind of keeping it a consistent look. Maybe cue to the next one. So this is the main level plan. It's a combination of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. First floor has an office and also a community room. And then the second floor you're seeing at the bottom is consistent. The units carry up through it, but in the back there we do have a fitness center. And then the next one is the third floor plan. The third floor plan, we're going to make a little higher ceilings, making that a little nicer finish. definition, potentially like a 55-plus community for the top floor, a little higher end finishes. Also proposed is 18 single garage stalls, 12 by 24 deep. And then here you're seeing the elevations, both front, side, and back. And it's just taking a second to load, I think. So you can see off to the right in the middle there are the finishes kind of matching what we've done and what they've done with the clinic. And then I may have to go back up to one of the site plans or. So if you're familiar with where the clinic is, it sits behind it. And, there we go. So it's in the southwest corner next to the retention pond. Everything, it is city sewer site, and it's going to be a fully sprinkled building, and that's about it. Do you want to think something?
We proposed to build this building across Lake earlier this summer, and there were some difficulties there, so we did not proceed forward with it. It actually got denied by them for other various reasons. We're right based out of Pequot Lake, so this is right down the road from us, not far at all, a couple miles, so close construction for us. We did a housing study as well. I don't know if you guys had a chance to see that or not, but there's a need for this building by 2023. There's 7 units, I believe, wasn't it, one? 73 units by 2023, so we feel we have a need for it to fill it. Also, we talked to some locals around here that say they don't have housing for their employees that are close enough to them. So, is there any questions you guys have for us? I can answer for you.
Roger?
I'd love to.
It's kind of a unique roof line, but the parking's, we talked about that last time, and,
I'll get to that.
oh, okay. No more questions.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the parking too, and you're going to be setting it closer in, not closer to Ranchette.
Correct. True. Yeah, we did move sites.
Are you going to have to do fill or leveling or whatever?
We have some retaining walls in there, and it probably walls of
Tracy?
No? No questions.
Michael?
None?
Okay.
To answer the look question a little bit more, Roger, like Bill said before, we're trying to base this off of the clinic so that it all kind of matches back there.
Yeah.
I don't think it would really look necessarily, in my opinion, good if you had, an upward, pitched rather than how these flat dormers on there. This is kind of the look that the resort has, the clinic has put into there. So.
And we have adjusted parking. We currently have 120 spaces, and it's 2 per unit. And in addition to that, we have the 18 garage spaces.
Right.
You don't think you'd need more garages than that?
It's all they can fit.
That's all. We're thinking that some of these tenants as well might not be driving tenants. Maybe some of the elders may like it because it's back to the clinic so close they can walk over there. There's a lot of foreign exchange students that come into the area as well that don't have licenses and stuff like that, so maybe live in there as well.
So there's no room for additional garages, period?
Oh, I think there would be in the back there.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
So we've typically planned 16, here we did 18, and the site as it drops to the west, we're actually using those garages as retainage. And we would have a retaining wall in the back as well that you'll see in the grading plan, so garage could only help in the middle there. It's kind of an owner's decision, so at the time we were just fitting as many as we could along the east and staying within all setbacks.
Another thing would be parking, I assume. We have to have a requirement for parking. Is it something that you guys would allow to use garage spaces as useful parking if we didn't allow them as storage? Is that something you guys would allow?
Is there a quick answer to that question, Jerry?
You look it up.
Oh, okay.
I think it's kind of a gray area, I'm not sure.
Yeah, we were offered that in Cross Lake, so we were using that in our house to help. In that situation, it was trying to save trees. So we were doing everything we could to save trees, and they allowed us to count those, but be to your discretion.
As of my knowledge, there's no trees on the site right now.
No, you'll be planting trees.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Good, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Staff review, Jerry.
Again, this is a conditional use application of Babinski Properties to locate a 60-unit apartment building on Lot 1 in the west 265 feet of Lot 2 of the North Star Center parcel. Site is serviced by municipal sewer, and access to the site is proposed to be by private roadway, which has been dedicated as an outlot in the plat. The proposal is again for a 60-unit apartment building with on-site parking. I believe there's 120 designated parking stalls and 18 proposed garages. The applicant will need to divide Lot 2 and consolidate the west 265 of Lot 2 with Lot 1 of North Star Center. The easements that exist on the existing lot lines will also need to be vacated in the future. Apartment rental units are an appropriate conditional use in the commercial zone. Again, this is a commercial zone. Upon review of the conditional use application, the commission needs to consider the findings as required in section 153.119. In review, the commission shall state whether or not finding is acceptable towards granting the CUP if applicable. The following findings must be met. The use or the development is the appropriate conditional use in the land use zone. The use or development with conditions conforms to the comprehensive land use plan. The use with conditions is compatible with the existing neighborhood. The use with conditions will not be injurious to the public health, safety, welfare, decency, order, comfort, convenience, appearance, or prosperity of the city. The following must be considered. The conditional use should not be injurious to the use and the enjoyment of the property in the immediate vicinity. The conditional use would not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding vacant properties. The conditional use will not create excessive additional requirements at public cost for public facilities and services. It will not be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community. The conditional use will promote and preserve the Northwood character of the community. The conditional use will have vehicular approaches to the property, which are so designed as not to create traffic congestion or interfere with traffic on surrounding public thoroughfares. Adequate measures have been taken to provide sufficient off-street parking and loading. Adequate measures have been taken to prevent and control offensive odor, fumes, dust, etc. The condition will not result in the destruction, loss, or damage of natural, scenic, or historic features. The conditional use will promote the prevention and control of pollution of the ground and surface waters, including sedimentation, controls, and nutrients. The proposed use is keeping with the residential character of the neighborhood. The applicant has filed the appropriate application. The application has paid the appropriate fee. Notice of this public hearing was given to all three property owners within 350 feet of the property, and public notice was also in the newspaper of record, and public hearing is being held this evening. We've reviewed the site plan, we've reviewed the CUP application. The only thing that we haven't reviewed at this point would be the building construction and compliance with building code. If the commission so chooses, we would recommend that the following conditions be placed on the approval. Structure shall comply with all setbacks and height requirements. Garage 12 feet, apartment building 40 feet. Building permit to be obtained and the appropriate municipal hookups be installed and pay the appropriate fees. Structure shall meet or exceed state building code requirements. Erosion control to be established and maintained until turf is reestablished. And we would ask that there be a landscape plan that would be submitted to the Planning Commission for approval. The one thing we haven't seen at this point is some kind of a planting vegetation plan. I think that would be pretty important for this proposal. With that, I'll open it up to questions.
Questions of Jerry? Roger?
I agree with the landscape plan, and it looks like a good building. That's all I
Pink?
have.
No, I think the landscape plan though is necessary, I think.
Okay. Breezy?
No questions, but a comment. Again, I think we're fortunate to have a local firm wanting and willing and being interested in us as a community and us as an area in putting forth these efforts, and I therefore support this.
Michael?
Water runoff is not a concern at this point due to...
Actually, this total site, the North Star subdivision, was designed so that all the lots would drain towards the sediment basin to the west. That's the reason you've got all this coverage with parking areas and those type of things. It's going to be handled as part of that total development.
And you were going to get into parking. You had something, a statement on that?
I haven't got that far yet.
Well, Jerry's doing his due diligence there. Would there be any input to this application? If you would like to provide your input, please come to the microphone, introduce yourself and your address.
Good evening. My name is Chuck Hamilton. I live at 30572 Barkwood Trail. Appreciate the opportunity to provide some input. We just heard about this about a week or 10 days ago in spite of other ways of alerting the community. I did do some due diligence and went over to Pequot Lakes and did review their two properties there on the south side, drove around. It looked to be in pretty good condition, saved the parking lot maybe. I did stop at the police department too, because one of the concerns I was thinking about with a lot of housing, affordable housing, which many communities need, is how are they run? If there are problems, how are they dealt with? Usually your police department is the point of contact for that. So I did have an opportunity to speak with the Pequot Police Department. They did tell me that they did support the Cross Lake proposal that was pulled by the developers. Pequot Police had a couple things to say, and I don't want to try to summarize what they said. I will read to you from some emails if you need to see those. You can make copies of them. I asked them for some data on police calls to the properties in Pequot Lakes. I think this would be of interest to your police department. Thank you for stopping in and chat with us the other day about Babinski properties. I ran an inquiry of police department calls for service for the following date range, September 1st, 2018 to September 1st, 2019, at two of their buildings in town, 30637 and 30585 Olson Street. A total of 43 calls between both buildings. I hope that helps. Not being a numbers person and police calls and population and all the rest of that, is that a lot? It seemed like a lot to me. So I did send them a note back and said, give me some context. What is that compared to something? And this comes from Sergeant Turcotte, the Pequot Police Department. In the past, the incident volume was higher at the apartments. Babinski's placed a new manager to oversee the apartments, and we all worked very well together, which resulted in fewer incidences, which I expect to continue to lower. For reference, from September 1st, 2015 to September 1st, 2016, at the same two buildings, there were 115 incidences. Currently, it's down 60%, primarily due to the excellent partnership with Babinski's and our committed community policing model. I'll come back to that. There are approximately 200 apartments between those two locations. Some apartments are occupied by one person, but the vast majority have 2 to 5 people in them. When you consider the number of apartments and population, we view this number as very low. Also keep in mind that these incidents include medicals, information, and other civil issues. So I must admit I felt better with some context to that. But I think the key I would come back to there,
I'm sure that this proposal is gonna pass. Most communities need affordable housing. I'm not sure what Cross Lake was thinking about, seeing how they've got that huge assisted living facility that's gonna bring in a lot of people who are gonna need somewhere to stay, the staff. But this relationship building, after it's built and people start coming, that seems to be the key, at least in the mind of the Pequot Police Department. There needs to be a close relationship and it needs to be good management. That's what I took as their underlying message here, but they were very, very supportive in that regard. So I did feel better about that. I did hear that there would be a retaining wall, and I certainly would, at the appropriate time, like to hear more about that. I would like to see that retaining wall right at that fence line to the campground. In looking at the Pequot Lakes compound, if you will, if you've been over there, it's about a 6-foot fence with barbed wire on top. A nice retaining wall would probably be look much nicer and fit into the Northwoods atmosphere than that. I too was concerned about the number of garages. I think that the police said there were 200 apartments, they thought, over there, and I counted 86 garages, so not quite half. And so, at any rate, and I did hear, and I would like to hear more comment about short and long-term leases. What does that mean? Is it, how is that going to work? And I was very pleased to hear about the 55 plus on the top floor. I have had contact with some people who live in the community who are going to be selling their home, and when they heard about this proposal, they were excited. Whether that comes to fruition for them, I don't know. But certainly there are issues related to it, and I pointed out a few of those, and would thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Very useful information. Appreciate it. Would you guys like to respond before we?
I can.
Okay, sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we'd be interested in hearing.
Again, John Levinsky, 25089 Pine Lane, Nisswa, Minnesota. So when it comes to the cops aspect, we've been asked that, and Cross Lake before that came up this summer quite a bit. I met with a couple different officers from Pequot here this last spring, trying to get some of the stuff addressed and see what they were, as well as, I forgot your name? Chuck. So as long as Chuck said, they said, John, it's been significantly different. You guys got to understand, my grandfather passed away about 8 years ago. He used to run the buildings, and he ran a little bit more old school style management than we do nowadays, and we've changed a lot of things in the last 7-8 years to up those things, as well as getting better managers in there. We actually do a lot better background checks now than we did in the past, and screen people want better to be in there. I know there was a comment about our asphalt at our apartments currently. We just did one of our buildings over by Sibley. It's a 48-unit building that we have there. It was built in '73. We just went through and we redid the roof, siding, decks, did the asphalt. We tore down the garages that were existing, rebuilt them new, did a whole new landscape plan. So that building's it's about 95% complete, and then that will be almost a brand new building. We went through and we redid, I think it was like 18 of those 48 units, completely brand new, from sheetrock studs all the way up, new cabinets, countertops, bathrooms, everything. So that's just kind of to show you that we do put time, energy, and effort into our buildings and don't just let them fall apart, and when they get 40 years old, just let them go. The building I think he's talking about is the one behind Super Value, and that parking lot's actually getting replaced in 3 weeks. We've had a drainage issue there for the past 20 years. My grandpa made it so that the water ran off right across the sidewalk, and I don't know, so you guys, I don't want to hear that. But so we had to get different engineering and such done to make it so that we can bring that water to properly and such like that. So that's actually, it was going to take place this week, but we've been rained out all week. So that's why it hasn't started, but so that would be addressed to that aspect. What was another concern that you had?
Behind it.
Oh, the barbed wire.
Yeah, it would be nice to have a barrier.
Yep.
So that remains a buffer for street. People can come forward and not back into the campground area.
Yep, so barbed wire fence, so the barbed wire fence in Pequot is not for apartment buildings. On the left-hand side, it was old before we sold that land to Super Value, before they were built. We used to own all that land over there, all the way up to, there used to be an old motel there. But so that's the only land we didn't own, but so we wanted to probably 3/4 of the super value land. So the fencing in the spots, when you drive in, you can see barbed wire fence on the left, but the barbed wire fence only goes around our shop, which is 42 acres in downtown people out there. So the barbed wire is not around our apartments. We have brown chain link fence around our apartments, and then I don't even know if we made it into our cottages, which is our 55 and over. We built like 5 years ago.
It's coded, you can't get
Yeah. So that's the closest apartment that we have, probably close to the chain link fence or to the.
Well, behind your building is the same thing.
Between the school and the building, correct, yep, so that is there, but it's on the backside, it runs through the woods pretty thick, so you can't see it a whole lot, but we're not using any chain link and we're not gonna put any barbed wire up on this property. We did do a landscape plan for Cross Lake, and I guess we should have brought that to kind of show you guys what we were planning on doing there. It's a completely different layout and such, but we were proposing, I think it was like 60-something trees and shrubs and such like that, so I think that should make you guys feel a little bit better about. We like trees, we like bringing them in there. I get them out of a place down south and they bring them up by the semi-load. We actually just got done planting 2 semi-loads here within the last 2 weeks on our existing properties just to add more, so we're all about covered and such like that, so. Yeah.
Do you see coordinating with the Breezy Point Police Department as valuable?
Yeah, I believe Bob talked to the Breezy Point Police Department.
Yes.
He might be able to speak more about that. I did not have anything to say with that, but they said it wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, other again. Yeah, I already reached out to Kevin. He did not think the 60 unit would put too much pressure on the existing police force. So an increase of cars, an increase of officers would not be needed. And we've always paired with the police department. We want to take care of these 3 of the family members. The SWATs who live right here in Breezy Point. The gal that does all of our background checks, she lives here in Breezy Point. So we aggressively manage all of our properties. And a partnership with the police force is integral to what we've done as far as making our property safe. So yeah, it's one of the steps that we take. We've already reached out to the police department.
A pretty good example is, so last Saturday, I was actually over at the shop working, but I got a phone call and it was one of the Pequot Police officers, Kate Peterson, so she's been with them for quite some time. She called me personally and I went and got her into our building over there, 55 and over, and made sure there was a mental check on somebody that didn't know if they were around or not. Still, for a well-being check, I guess you could say. But so a lot of the cops, they know me personally, first and last name. I know almost every Pequot cop, first and last name. They got my number. They got Bob's number. It's all pretty well open. We're a family-run business, so we'll take care of whatever problems come. So if you guys have any issues as a city aspect either, all you have to do is ask us, and we'll be there to help you out on that way. And the city of Pequot, I believe, wrote a letter of recommendation to the city of Cross Lake for us as well. So that could be something we can get over to you guys as well to help. So.
Another quick question. Is there any way for you to project the potential increase to the school district population as a result of this development?
A housing study or not?
I think it's too hard because we don't necessarily attract young families. We don't necessarily attract older. It'd be something that would be interesting to try to find out, but it really is too hard to project on who's going to be renting from us, whether it's families, retired. We had just seen a great need for 55 plus, and that's why we were going to designate that top floor, so 55 plus, given the views of that upper structure. So that is something that happened, which would obviously would cut down on the load that the schools could potentially see as far as class size. I could do some digging.
It kind of specifies a little bit how they're starting. So, and then it's not guaranteed that it's all, the whole third floor is going to be all 55 and over. We have decided that for sure.
Okay.
We might make some of them, they're all going to be nicer on the top floor, and we'd like to make mixed use with half 55 and over, maybe a little bit more, and then half like luxury, so that they're like, if you want like more high-end, tile bathrooms and a little fancier one that you can have them. So.
On that floor, is there a restriction, an age restriction? In other words, can you have children on that third floor?
Well, so if we're gonna designate it as 55 over, you get into some pretty big discrimination clauses. So we have to be careful with that. So we have 40 units in Pequot that are 55 and over. So up to 85%, have to be 55 and over. So you can have that 15% of not. So it all depends on where we're at with it, and there's different rules and regulations. We might just designate them for us that we are only renting these out for 55 and over, and there's different rules and regulations about that. We have to look into it. I probably have to have my lawyer look into it to make sure we don't get in trouble doing something the wrong way, but we won't do it until we know for sure what the rules and laws are on it.
Well, they're still here. Other questions? No. Yeah, Peggy?
We're still in the public hearing though,
I
right?
think.
Yes.
Yes.
Can
Yes.
I follow up on my questions? You have
Sure.
to sit down and get back up.
Why don't you come on up too?
Okay. Again, Chuck Hamilton. Just for the record, is this market rate apartments
Yes, it is.
as opposed to other special programs, income-based, income sliding fee?
We do not. We don't do any kind of subsidized housing at all. It's market rate. And you also had a question on short and long-term leases. We do a 6, a 9, and a 12-month lease.
Okay, because you mentioned that it would be helpful to resort was the short term for students, or you said some.
Well, we might be able to designate, have White Birch go ahead and rent them out long-term if they want to use that for students, but that's still in negotiations, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been very helpful.
All right.
Any other, Gary?
No, sir.
Any public input? Yes, sir.
I'm Jerry Hickey, I'm at 30679 Plumwood Trail. We're seasonal residents. And my issue is that security, we're gone from, I mean, there's nobody in the campground from the middle of October till the 1st of April. And vandalism has always been an issue. And we'd like to make sure that this doesn't add into the security issues that there already exist. We'd like to, because there is a snowmobile trail that goes through our property, and it touches my property in the back. And if you were to come from this, my property is considerably closer than 350 feet, and I never got a notification because I don't know how you address that, but my property comes right up to the back corner of that. And my property is the first property that gets touched with the snowmobile trail. My property backs up to that, and there's several other ones. And that's an easy access and this opens up for access to other people to get in there for, because they can come and park in that parking lot and get down and walk through this. So it's an opportunity type of thing. And I'd like to have some kind of security done so that they can't do that.
Okay.
That's my issue, is the security for that.
What about lighting?
For the parking lot, we'll have both sites. I don't think it shows it in the plan yet, but that will be in our final plan that we do. There'll be a light and landscape plan, kind of goes in, so.
Especially in the back, if that's a security issue is of concern to the campground.
Well, yeah, there'll be lighting in the back, of course, because we have the garages and we also have a parking lot back there, so we're gonna have to make it so that we don't have any slip and falls or anything like that, so people can visibly see. And another quick comment too is that the same managers that manage our Pequot location, I've already talked to them, and they're gonna take on managing this one as well. So if that, I know he said that the cops said that the new managers they have there, they've been there for about 9 years, they do a very aggressive job. It's a husband and wife, and been from the area their whole life, so they do a very good job with that as well.
So they are not on-site managers?
They live actually off County Road 15 in Jenkins. So they're not on site, but our assistant manager and our assistant maintenance guy live on site. So if we do need anything, and we probably would have another assistant manager and maintenance person that would be here to help, because our manager and maintenance guy can only take care of so much on their own. So we always have assistants to help.
Jeff?
Jeff Johnson, representing White Birch Inc. and White Birch Campground. We are in favor of the project, as you might guess. We've hired Bavinski Foundation for several different projects for the last year or so. They did some snow removal. They've had a guy come down and do some mowing. They helped us with a remodel project at our Inn Suites. And they've been very responsive and have done a great job of everything they've done. We will, of course, be encouraging, as you know, we do enjoy trees and landscaping, so we will be encouraging them to have all those things in there around the building as well. So,
Do you have any response, Jeff, to the security concern?
I don't have any concerns with that. People have walked into Jerry and I had this discussion on Saturday last week, and from where I'm standing, you can put any kind of a fence you want between them and the campground, people can just walk around the fence. And so it really isn't going to be that big of a concern. We've had vandalism in there. People have gone in when the copper got so high. They walked into the campground because you couldn't drive in, and they stole power cables off the campers and those kind of things. It happens. We're not happy about it, obviously, but it does happen. I don't know that this will encourage that. I don't see how any kind of a security fence is going to help that, because again, they can just walk around the fence. Our plan is still to keep the snowmobile trail open. So.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Now I'm speaking as mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
I'm the mayor of Breezy Point. Part of our comprehensive plan, we did extensive studies looking for input from our various communities within the city. Our focus group for the business community, this was the number one issue that they raised, was the lack of workforce housing. And I want to make this distinction and make it very clear. There is one thing that the federal government calls affordable housing, which has very specific requirements that you have to meet with income requirements, et cetera, et cetera. Workforce housing has no requirements other than they will tailor the rents to be in accordance with the market of the surrounding area. So in other words, the projected rents for this unit would be affordable for the people that work in this area. So that's a very big distinction. People bandy about the terms affordable housing, and the workforce housing is not the government-defined affordable housing. That's one thing I want to make very clear. But this is the type of project that will be able to bring workforce to the Breezy Point area to support not only the resort, but all of the other businesses around. I did have a call just recently from the former mayor of Cross Lake when she heard about this, that we possibly could be coming to Breezy Point with the housing that just got canceled by Cross Lake, because she's involved with the assisted living up there, and she is very excited because now the workforce housing that she will be able to utilize for the assisted living facility that's being built. She was very, very excited about it being so close. So not only personally, I'm very much in favor, but as far as the mayor of the city, I'm very much in favor of this project.
Tom, do you remember when that focus, the employer focus group?
It was
March?
Yeah, around March timeframe. And at that point, one of the first things that came up was one of the members of that focus group said, Breezy Point has no workforce housing, has no apartment whatsoever. And so we started looking into it. And it just happened to be coincidence, you know, that John Babinski came and was talking with Bob Spiso about building in the North Star Center. And we were independently looking at what could we do for apartments within Breezy Point. We did not have any. And oh, by the way, I have both Bob Erickson's number and John Babinski's number in my phone. So.
Pretty incredible that that focus group happened in March, and here we are today.
Yes, here we are today. This is, you know, basically we are implementing a deep desire that came of the focus group. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, I'll close the public hearing and move to the next agenda item, which is official action on this application. I would entertain a motion.
I move that we agree to accept the conditional use application for the Babinski project with all of the commentary from Jerry at the end of the statements, the setbacks, landscape plan, etc.
To include Jerry's recommendations. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Any discussion?
Nope.
Michael? Peggy?
I guess, yeah, one, to Jerry, the traffic, didn't the county kind of have a little issue on the traffic? You know, we're gonna dump 140 cars out onto 11.
Patrick has got a better answer than I do. We've worked with Mr. Landecker because there are certain requirements that have to be taken place. One of the things we had talked about was potentially putting a condition on. The next building permit does require improvements to Ranchette, and that'll be a right turn, a straight, and a left turn. And both those will have to be done as part of this agreement. So that's a good question on that. But I would also suggest, because the applicant offered the lighting plan, that be submitted along with the landscaping plan.
I'll include that as part of my motion then.
Seconder?
Second.
Okay. Good. Any other discussion? Michael?
No, I was just gonna, it's fine that the lighting plan is in there, but I do remember when the new clinic went up, I questioned our building official about the lighting and it's new, it's luminance requirements, but it is good to see it. I'd be very happy to see it, but they're gonna meet a lot of requirements from that perspective. You drive by that clinic and that's lit up very well, so my assumption is it'll be lit up just as well.
And good lighting is always the best deterrent for vandalism, so hopefully that goes a long way toward addressing your concern.
As I've always heard on fences, it keeps the honest people out.
There you go. Yeah. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Cross Lakes loss is our game.
Yes, I appreciate it. We all watch down.
Is the meeting over? It seems like it.
Made sense.
Oh my God. Congratulations. Thank you.
The meeting's not over.
Looks like they're moving. If they're not, I'll stop.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, are you going to adjourn the meeting?
We have open forum number 2 left.
Open forum number 2.
Next item on our agenda is open forum number 2. Would anyone like to speak during open forum number 2? If not, I'll close open forum number 2. Is there anything else that needs to be discussed?
Not this evening.
I can't believe that we almost made 8:30.
You did good.
Whew, yes. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.